Konami's Castlevania video game series, which has now been established into a full-fledged franchise, actually made its debut in 1986. Over the years, it has evolved from a traditional side-scrolling platformer into a sprawling action-adventure franchise, amassing a global fanbase and selling more than 20 million copies worldwide. Its enduring popularity has left an indelible mark on the gaming industry, inspiring subsequent generations of game developers. In 2010, Castlevania was rejuvenated with the release of the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series. This narrative delves into the tragic descent of Gabriel Belmont, who is lured into a world teeming with demonic forces and supernatural horrors. The game is initially set in the year 1047 AD, boasting mesmerizing visuals that seamlessly blend gothic aesthetics with an archaic medieval atmosphere. Usually, Castlevania immerses us in the enduring struggle of the Belmont family against the malevolent forces of nature, but the Lords of Shadows game was a refreshing departure from the same old storyline of a Belmont fighting the Dark Vampire Lord. Although it is not a part of the main game canon of the Castlevania series, the game surely has garnered quite a cult following, especially due to the intrigue around Gabriel Belmont's multi-layered character. In this video, we will discuss the origins and backstory of Gabriel Belmont and understand the events that led to his descent into darkness. So without wasting another second, let's get right to it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Who is Gabriel Belmont? In Castlevania Lords of Shadow, the story unfolds in a world teetering on the brink of an apocalyptic demise. The Earth's once harmonious connection with the heavens was under dire threat from an ominous and malevolent force known as the Lords of Shadow, which aimed to cast the world into darkness. Across this fractured realm, the souls of the departed wander aimlessly, unable to find solace, while malevolent creatures run amok, sowing chaos and death among the living. Now, many years ago, an anonymous child was discovered abandoned at the doorstep of one of the convents belonging to the Brotherhood of Light, an elite order of holy knights committed to safeguarding the innocent from supernatural threats. The true identity of the child's birth parents remained a mystery, although speculations have suggested that he might have been an unwanted child of a local affluent landowner, with the Kronkvist family being a potential but unproven link. Remember Matthias Kronkvist, the guy who eventually turned into Dracula in the main canon? Anyway, the Brotherhood took this nameless child and bestowed on him the Christian name of one of the revered archangels, Gabriel. He was raised within the sanctified walls of the convent as one of their own. Remarkably, this precocious child exhibited extraordinary talent and swiftly became a master of martial disciplines, a feat that was quite unprecedented in the history of the Brotherhood back then. Gabriel loved high places and mountains, so he took on the surname Belmont as a tribute. However, beneath his exceptional abilities, Gabriel harbored somber moods and moments of brooding which only his cherished childhood sweetheart Marie could soothe. Right from the start, Gabriel and Marie were an inseparable pair, growing up side by side. So eventually, their bond blossomed into a profound love, and they made promises to each other about their future, vows that they dutifully upheld. On a tranquil morning, with the blessings of both their families and the Brotherhood, the young couple joined in matrimony. Eventually, Gabriel Belmont became a distinguished member of the Brotherhood of Light. In the year 1046, Gabriel received a crucial assignment from the Brotherhood. His mission was to apprehend an entity known as the Demon Lord. In the perilous encounter with this beast, Gabriel sustained injuries and, in a moment of necessity, employed a combination of his own blood and a mystical device to imprison the creature. While Gabriel was away on this mission for the Brotherhood, Marie gave birth to their son, whom they named Trevor. However, having foreseen Gabriel's ominous descent into darkness, Marie made a heart-wrenching decision and opted to leave the child in the care of the Brotherhood and conceal the birth from Gabriel. The Brotherhood, fully aware of the impending darkness that would consume Gabriel, supported Marie's choice and made provisions for Trevor to be trained to face his father when the time came, a destiny that awaited him as the Prince of Darkness. But tragedy strikes when Marie falls victim to the ruthless forces of darkness and her soul becomes ensnared in eternal torment. Trapped in a twilight existence, she gradually comprehends the horrifying truth of the peril looming over the world. With unwavering determination, she steers Gabriel towards his destiny with the hope of saving the world, even if it comes at a harrowing price. As a result, Gabriel embarks on a harrowing journey through the ravaged world, confronting and vanquishing the malevolent tyrants to harness their powers and restore equilibrium. Equipped with a versatile combat cross, the last hope for the world, he must engage with the three factions of the Lords of Shadow and put an end to their unholy dominion. How did Marie's death serve as a catalyst for Gabriel's descent into darkness? After Marie's death, Gabriel embarked on a journey into a mysterious forest where he encountered a guardian named Pan at the serene lake of Oblivion. Pan reveals that this ethereal place enables the living to commune with the departed. Gabriel reveals that the Brotherhood of Light sent him on this quest because they received a prophetic dream hinting at a message from his late wife and believed that this message held the key to saving the world. With Pan's blessing, Gabriel crosses the mystical lake and establishes contact with Marie, who imparts vital information explaining that the founding spirits of the Brotherhood of Light are attempting to convey a message and believe that the power of the Lords of Shadow is the path to the world's redemption. After Marie's presence vanishes, a member of the Brotherhood of Light named Zobek introduces himself to Gabriel and claims to be an old acquaintance of Pan. Zobek offers his assistance, stating that a closely guarded prophecy foretells the emergence of a virtuous warrior who will harness the power of the Lords of Shadow to combat evil, and then reveals a plan to traverse the realms of the Dark Lords, reuniting the heavens with the earthly realm. By doing so, Gabriel can potentially resurrect Marie from the dead. Now, Gabriel decides to depart for the land of Lycans and entrusts Zobek with preparing for their subsequent journey to the land of the vampires, followed by the land of necromancers. So, Gabriel's odyssey leads him to the land of the Lycans, where he encounters a peculiar individual named Claudia who possesses the unique ability to communicate telepathically and read minds despite being mute. In exchange for capturing malevolent souls, she is safeguarded by a powerful guardian known as the Black Knight Golem. When Claudia delves into Gabriel's thoughts, uncovering the purpose of his journey to the land of the Lycans, she becomes sympathetic to his cause and offers her assistance. However, while they are resting the night, an unexpected turn of events occurs as Gabriel awakens, startled, as if from a dream, and finds himself in the presence of Pan, who materializes before him. Pan alerts Gabriel, urging him to resist succumbing to the encroaching darkness and advising him to claim the Black Knight's gauntlet for his own benefit. In a shocking twist, Gabriel, still reeling from the encounter, adamantly professes his reluctance to harm his newfound companions. To his horror, he notices a dagger protruding from Claudia's lifeless body. When the Black Knight finds out, he launches an attack on Gabriel. Naturally, Gabriel is forced to fight him and triumphs over the golem, ultimately obtaining the coveted gauntlet. With a heavy heart, Gabriel buries Claudia and resumes his journey. He eventually confronts the Dark Lord of the Lycans, Cornell, who challenges Gabriel's resolve and imparts a crucial revelation about the founding members of the Order. These dedicated individuals engaged in a crusade against the spawn of Satan and discovered 3 locations where God's power was exceptionally potent. Using this power to transform into spirits, they became the second most powerful entity after God. However, when they ascended to the heavens, they left behind their malevolent aspects, which became the Lords of Shadow, including Cornell himself. The result of this confrontation led to Gabriel's victory, which allowed him to secure a piece of the God Mask. Following this, Pan reappears, taking the form of a colossal eagle, and guides Gabriel to the land of the vampires, where he reunites with Zobek in a village, where they obtain a sacred relic from a deranged village abbot. Their presence incites the wrath of the vampires, who attempts to eliminate Gabriel and raise the village. In a grueling showdown, Gabriel prevails against their powerful lieutenant. The following day, he departs the village and with the aid of a villager, locates the entrance to Carmilla's castle. Within the castle of the vampire Dark Lord Carmilla, Gabriel encounters a young vampire named Laura. After a challenging game of vampire chess, Laura initially seeks to harm Gabriel, but ultimately relents upon recognizing the significance of his quest. She departs, allowing Gabriel to continue his ascent and confront the second general of the vampire army. At the pinnacle of the castle, Gabriel confronts Carmilla in a fierce battle and emerges victorious, obtaining the second piece of the God Mask. Subsequently, Gabriel embarks on his journey to the land of the necromancers through a portal created by Pan, who unexpectedly challenges Gabriel to a duel, leaving him bewildered. In the aftermath of their confrontation, Pan sustains a mortal wound and explains that this challenge was a self-sacrifice, essential for opening a path for Gabriel's continued journey. Finally, Gabriel's path ultimately leads him to an encounter with a necromancer, who transforms into the formidable titan named Dracula. In a climactic battle, Gabriel defeats the titan, securing the final part of the mask. Following this, Zobek materializes before Gabriel, revealing the devil mask and placing it on his face. In a startling revelation, he admits to being the Lord of the Necromancers, the very being responsible for the spell that severed Earth from the heavens. Zobek's intention behind this act was to provoke the Order's founders in heaven into reaching out to the Brotherhood of Light. He did so because he had grown weary of the Lords of Shadow, dividing their power among themselves, failing to recognize the untapped potential and combining it. Driven by a thirst for this power, Zobek ventured into the depths of hell, where he was exposed to an evil force that expanded his knowledge of the dark arts. In accordance with the prophecy, all Zobek needed was for Gabriel to restore the power of the spirits, while using him as a means to divert suspicion from the other Lords of Shadow. Gabriel vehemently rejects Zobek's malevolent schemes, vowing not to allow him to obstruct his path. However, Zobek reveals a chilling truth. He had used the devil mask on Gabriel to compel him to kill Claudia, enabling Zobek to acquire the Black Knight's gauntlet. This gauntlet would serve as a control mechanism should Gabriel ever become a threat to him. Zobek further confesses to manipulating Gabriel into murdering his own wife, Marie, orchestrating the intricate events of the entire narrative. Yep, so the dark force that ensnared Marie was actually her husband. In a climactic turn of events, Satan emerges, seizing the god mask from Zobek. It is then revealed that Satan was the one responsible for bestowing power and knowledge upon Zobek while in hell. Moreover, Satan masterminded every aspect of the intricate plot from the outset, driven by a thirst for vengeance against God and a fervent desire to return to the heavens. Naturally, like a hero, Gabriel confronts Satan in an epic showdown and emerges victorious, ultimately dispelling the dark enchantment that had ensnared the souls of the deceased in limbo. Before ascending to the heavens, Marie appears to Gabriel, offering words of redemption and love. When Gabriel inquires if the god mask can bring her back, he learns that its purpose is to grant the wearer the ability to see through God's eyes. Marie conveys that it is too late for her, but shares a poignant farewell, bestowing a final kiss upon Gabriel before leaving and taking the god mask along. How does Gabriel Belmont become Dracula? Following Marie's departure, Gabriel found himself adrift in a world devoid of hope after his triumph over Satan. Suddenly, Laura calls for him, drawing him to Bernard Castle, where he confronts the stark consequences of his actions. By vanquishing the three Lords of Shadow, Gabriel unwittingly unleashed an indomitable menace named the Forgotten One. This was an immensely potent demon that the Brotherhood's founders had imprisoned deep within the heart of the castle. Soon, Gabriel and Laura recognized the urgency of their task and resolved to locate the entrance to the ancient fortress of the Brotherhood, where they navigated its ancient corridors and collected the blood of the three founders. This blood was a vital component required to unseal the entrance to the chamber where the Forgotten One lay imprisoned. However, there was a significant obstacle to overcome. Only beings tainted by darkness could enter the dimension where the Forgotten One was confined. In a heartbreaking plea, Laura implored Gabriel to drink her blood, thereby releasing her from her unending torment. With great reluctance, Gabriel drank from Laura's wrist till his body was completely transfused with her vampire blood, thus causing her demise and his own transformation into a creature of the night. After forsaking his mortality, Gabriel passed through the gate alone, ready to face the menacing entity that awaited him. Stepping into the dimensional prison, Gabriel exhibited increasingly ominous signs of his descent into darkness. His humanity waned, replaced by a growing appetite for violence and a creeping insanity. As he unlocked the prison's doors, he encountered the Forgotten One, emerging from the molten depths and scaling the rocky terrain to access the portals leading back to the mortal realm. Though the demon was weakened, their battle resulted in a stalemate, causing the Forgotten One to regain his strength and proceed to the underworld, the final plane, before re-entering the mortal realm. But as Gabriel relentlessly pursued the Forgotten One, his transformation deepened, marked by a consuming darkness that enveloped him. He declared himself darker and more dreadful than the demon, proclaiming that the creature would beg for mercy before their ultimate confrontation. In their final battle, the Forgotten One opened the portal, taunting Gabriel that it was now wide open. The entity went on to mock Gabriel, saying that he would be kept alive just so he could witness the world's destruction, asserting that Gabriel had failed in his mission. Just as the Forgotten One prepared to reclaim the portion of his power sent to unseal the barrier, Gabriel intervened, absorbing the demon's immense power. With the Forgotten One now begging for mercy, Gabriel harnessed his newfound might to obliterate the demon once and for all. Before departing the underworld, Gabriel shattered his versatile combat cross, leaving its pieces scattered and forgotten within the dark dimension. Dracula's adventures after his transformation. After losing Marie, Gabriel embraced his role as an immortal vampire in the Mirror of Fate game, adopting the name Dracula, which the people would come to know as Dracula. Eventually, he took possession of Carmilla's castle, transforming it into his fortress and delving deeper into the arcane, commanding a whole troop of fearsome monsters and mastering new forms of magic involving the void and chaos. The Brotherhood of Light, bearing partial responsibility for his tragic fate and his vampiric condition, sought to vanquished Dracula and dispatched numerous knights to his castle, all of whom failed in their endeavors. Concurrently, Dracula harbored his own desire for vengeance against the Brotherhood and inspired to reshape the world according to his own vision. On the other hand, as Gabriel's son Trevor reached adulthood, the elders finally disclosed the truth of his parentage to him. Fueled by a burning determination to confront his demonic father and avenge his mother, Trevor embarked on a perilous journey. Soon Trevor confronted Dracula at the summit of his castle, within the chamber of the Mirror of Fate, where Gabriel had previously clashed with Carmilla. Observing that Trevor wielded a copy of the same combat cross he once parted ways with, Dracula inquired about the identity of its user. Although Trevor withheld his name, he asserted his knowledge of his father's true nature, alongside his intent to cleanse his family's tarnished name and seek retribution for his mother's death. Dracula, amused by Trevor's deeply personal motives, took a moment to expound on his nihilistic views on existence and death, explaining his belief that he offered his victims a passage to a superior realm. Dracula further declares his indifference towards getting to know his victims and profess ignorance about Trevor's mother. But Trevor, resolute in his mission, insisted that he did know his mother, vowing to reveal her name upon defeating his father. Enraged by the young man's audacity, Dracula summoned his void sword, igniting an intense and brutal battle between father and son. During their confrontation, Dracula skillfully wielded his void sword and chaos claws, deploying his newfound powers to their full extent. Trevor, however, countered with his own combat skills and harnessed light and shadow magic to match Dracula's powerful weaponry. The battle escalated into the air, but eventually both combatants plummeted back to the chamber below. As Trevor continued to clash with the Vampire Lord, an infuriated Dracula swore that he would never be vanquished and met Trevor's final assault head-on. In a burst of violent bloodshed, Trevor was unfortunately defeated, falling to the blade of his own weapon. As Trevor lay on the brink of death, he gazed into the Mirror of Fate, realizing the truth of Gabriel's descent into darkness. In his last breath, he shared with Dracula that they represented opposite responses to their respective fates. While Gabriel had embraced his fate even in the face of betrayal, Trevor had resolutely fought against his destiny despite the futility of his efforts. He subsequently conveyed to Dracula that he pitied him and finally revealed himself as his son. Confronting the truth within the Mirror of Fate, Dracula was consumed by a tumultuous mix of anger, horror, and remorse. Filled with deep regret, he desperately attempted to revive Trevor by offering him his own blood, tearfully beseeching his son to survive. In a display of futility, Dracula placed his son's lifeless body in a coffin, inscribing it with the name Alucard, a word he had not learned but possibly remembered from Trevor's earlier assertion of their opposition. Dracula also preserved Trevor's attire and the combat cross in a concealed chamber within the library as a poignant tribute to his fallen son. Several years later, Dracula bore witness to how Simon met Alucard, offering a fleeting smile before vanishing. Subsequently, Simon confronted Dracula in his throne room at the pinnacle of his castle. While impressed by Simon's prowess, Dracula made it clear that Belmont was no match for him. As they prepared to confront one another, Alucard entered the room. Now Dracula had really hoped for his son to stand by his side, but when Alucard refused, Dracula resolved to eliminate Simon despite Alucard's protests, as the battle was a matter between father and son, so Simon had no business in it. As Dracula had grown to despise the Belmont lineage, he simply refused to allow it to persist. In the ensuing battle, Dracula clashed with both Simon and Alucard simultaneously, deliberately holding back his full power, solely relying on his shadow whip and fireballs, and refraining from using his full strength. Eventually, Dracula incapacitated Simon and dueled Alucard for a time before returning to his throne and asserting control over Simon. He then forced Alucard to face his own son in combat and taunted his reluctance to harm Simon. But Dracula grew disgusted when Alucard ultimately broke his son free from his father's control, following which Dracula nearly strangled Alucard to death with his whip, but was thwarted when Simon intervened at the last moment. With a burst of intense dark magic, Dracula managed to knock Simon down once more. However, Alucard finally succeeded in restraining his father and keeping him in place, which allowed Simon to deliver the final blow using the combat cross wielded by Trevor. So Dracula was ultimately defeated for the first time since his rise and dissolved into an eerie red light, slowly dissolving into a pile of ash. After watching his father's much anticipated end, Alucard noted that Dracula's death was not typical of how vampires usually die, and even though Dracula's castle collapsed after his demise, Alucard strongly believed that his father somehow managed to save himself and would be back one day to take revenge. And that assumption came out to be absolutely true, as Dracula makes a strong comeback in The Lords of Shadow 2, trying to regain his power and position in the world so he can vanquish Satan, his old enemy. How powerful was Dracula in the Lord of the Shadows timeline? Shadow's Dracula possessed an impressive array of powers, transcending the capabilities of a common vampire and even overshadowing the most advanced vampiric entities in history. Having assimilated the immense power of the ancient demon, the Forgotten One, who reigned as the sovereign over the elemental plane of darkness, Dracula wields extraordinary dark abilities. Furthermore, he retains the profound holy powers he possessed as Gabriel, surpassing even the paladin Roland de Roncesvalles. He attributes this incredible power to his status as God's chosen one after acquiring the God Mask. Plus, Dracula's exceptional level of power has earned him the fear and dread of all his adversaries, including Zobek and even Satan himself. In the Lords of Shadow 2, Dracula is depicted as possessing heightened physical strength, along with remarkable telekinesis. He exhibits the ability to transform into ethereal magical smoke, manipulating this form to achieve various effects. These include soaring through the air with great force and agility, causing enough disruption to stagger entire battalions of knights. Dracula can even conjure a magical whip composed of red energy, a weapon with impressive speed and devastating impact. He also demonstrates instant teleportation, further underscoring his supernatural abilities. In addition to that, Dracula's powers and weaponry in his vampiric form are explored more extensively in Lords of Shadow: Mirror of Fate. In combat against Alucard and Simon, he can transmute his hand into a red gauntlet, which grants him power to manifest a magical red whip reminiscent of his legendary vampire killer. When facing Trevor, Dracula showcases his proficiency in both light and shadow magic. He also wields a light magic-infused sword and a pair of shadow magic-infused orange gauntlets. These weapons enable him to execute an array of magical attacks, with the sword capable of emitting energy waves and the gauntlets summoning fiery bursts akin to the gauntlet's tremor attacks. Just like his classic counterpart, Dracula can fire a continuous stream of fireballs and command a host of monstrous minions, including werewolves, undead knights, and the seductive succubus. The release of Lords of Shadow 2 reveals the nature of Dracula's powers, diverging from traditional light and shadow magic. Dracula harnesses the power of the void and chaos, each associated with a specific weapon. The orange gauntlets are known as the Chaos Claws, offering slower yet immensely potent attacks. The Void Sword, on the other hand, is a light and swift weapon, granting Dracula increased health with every strike and enabling him to unleash void-powered blasts to freeze his adversaries. But Dracula's primary weapon, the Shadow Whip, remains a central element of his combat arsenal. Notably, Dracula no longer absorbs neutral magic from his enemies, but instead collects blood orbs, allowing him to quickly drain the life force of his foes when in need of a rapid health boost. Coming to Dracula's mastery over blood manipulation is evident in his creation of the Shadow Whip, forged from his own vampiric essence, and his ability to craft a new, long coat by shaping it from his own blood. I mean, how insane is that? Dracula can also employ blood magic to produce shadow daggers, replenishing this power from his internal blood reservoir. His vampire possession further allows him to temporarily inhabit and control other people's bodies, influencing them to fight each other or serve his will. And that is exactly what he did with Simon while trying to make him fight Alucard. Throughout his character run, we witness him showcasing exceptional shape-shifting abilities and assuming various forms, including an elderly visage, his youthful self, and even the likeness of Vlad III Dracula. He can even transform into various beast-like animals, except for taking on a wolf form, which is reserved for his son Alucard. Dracula's elusive mist form enables him to move swiftly, pass through obstacles and enemies, ambush adversaries, and create substantial shockwaves of smoke. He can even adjust this form to either freeze or break the armor of those he passes through. In addition to this, Dracula's power extends to summoning demon wings, allowing for agile double jumps. He can also project a powerful bloodshot wave, which was displayed during his confrontation with Alucard and Simon. His abilities mainly stem from the mastery of void and chaos magic, affording him powers similar to light and shadow magic. Dracula wields the Chaos Claws, which are fiery red gauntlets representing his burning hatred for Satan, Zobek, and the Brotherhood of Light. These gauntlets inflict tremendous damage and have unique abilities such as firing chaos bombs, creating ground explosions, and releasing waves of fire. The Void Sword, on the other hand, symbolizes the void within Dracula, offering a contrasting style with its swift and light attributes. Each strike with a Void Sword enhances his health and can unleash void projections that freeze or weaken enemies. Dracula can exhibit massive void and chaos shockwaves, even casting widespread versions to cover large areas. Furthermore, Dracula's immortality ensures his invulnerability to divine and holy magic that would affect typical vampires. But it should be noted that he is immune to harm from all but the vampire killer. Plus, his telekinetic talents allow him to manipulate objects and even summon stunned victims for blood draining. Dracula's additional powers in this timeline include acid spewing during combat with the Brotherhood, using the Heart of Dracula artifact for health restoration, accessing the Tears of a Saint artifact to rejuvenate stamina, and casting Hellfire attacks, much like the original Dracula's assaults in the main canon. He also has control over legions of creatures of the night and is unaffected by holy artifacts. And if all of this were not enough, Dracula's exceptionally crazy combat skills and resourcefulness are displayed throughout his battles, while he utilizes deception and stealth to outmaneuver his adversaries. Marvelous verdict. Since the release of Lords of Shadow 2, the Lords of Shadow timeline has been overshadowed by the classic continuity in the Castlevania series. Now this has raised quite a few questions about whether Gabriel Belmont, aka Dracula, will continue to play a significant role in the franchise, or if he will remain a lesser known aspect of Castlevania history, which has mostly been the case as of now. It is worth noting that the classic timeline introduced its own Dracula origin story in Castlevania, Lament of Innocence, further emphasizing the shift away from the Lords of Shadow narrative. Nevertheless, the Lords of Shadow games present a unique and tragic twist on Castlevania's fundamental conflict. In this iteration, the concept of the sins of the father become literal, as Gabriel Belmont is fated to confront and prey upon his own family as the dark vampire Lord Dracula, adding an intriguing layer of complexity to the story. So now that we have come to the very end of this video, what do you think of this character? Is he cooler than Dracula, or do we like the OG Dracula Vlad Tepes better? Let us know in the comment box below.